Hello, and welcome to my living room. Today is Friday the 13th, October 13th, 2023, and this is the Live and Learn. Today we are doing crochet podcast. So welcome. This is actually take two. All I did to mess up take one was I forgot to put the phone on Do Not Disturb, and I don't know if I would ever be disturbed, but I didn't want to risk it. Today would be the day it would happen, right? So, yeah, it's a very gray, dreary day here in western Wisconsin on the banks of the Mississippi River. And it's been raining since yesterday afternoon. It's supposed to keep raining until I think sometime on Sunday, perhaps, or late Saturday night. So great time to stay inside and do some crafty goodness. Yeah, get some things done. So join me. And if you're a knitter and don't crochet, just hang out anyway. And good things, we'll talk about all kinds of good things besides the goodness of crochet. So I think I said my name. I said it last time. I'm Anne or Annie. And I learned to crochet very early, 11 years old. The very first thing I did was sewing, hand sewing, and embroidery, like the stamped patterns on cotton. Did some pillowcases and little stitching that my mom showed me how to do. And she did try to teach me to crochet, and it was difficult because what she tried to teach me with in the beginning was using the knit crocheting, the number 10 crochet cotton, and a steel hook. And my gosh, that was hard. That was just too fine for little fingers who didn't maybe have the dexterity. And because I'm talking, like 8 or 9 years old, or maybe even earlier. And I just couldn't do it. But one day, she was cooking supper and she had a crochet project. She was making a scarf in a worsted weight variegated yarn. I think the size hook was J. She was making for my brother, and it was just basically a mesh. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet all the way across. It wouldn't have been a very good scarf, really. Anyway, that's what she was making. Or maybe it was solid double crochets. But I picked it up then and knew, a little bit from what she had tried to teach me. And so I worked on the scarf for her. And so we kind of worked on it together. She'd do it and I'd do it. And after that, I was off and running with crochet. And I think all my projects for the first 2-3 years maybe were always size J hook with worsted weight yarn. Yeah. And it would be things like afghans, blankets, scarves. Just use up all, granny squares, used up all the worsted weight yarn that we had. It was fun. I don't think I have any of those early projects left anymore. They wore out, basically. So, and yeah, they were just beginner things. So I did go on to do doilies, worked my way back to knit crocheting and a number 7 steel hook. And I even went down to like number 30 crochet cotton and a size 14 hook and did some doilies. I really enjoyed that. I liked the geometry of those projects. Seeing if you were making a hexagon or a spiral, how many times you increased. Were you doing patterns in octagons, or what did it take to get to that round shape, that starburst shape or snowflake shape? They were challenging, and they were mostly from books back then in the 60s, well, in the 70s and 80s, that didn't have charts for crochet, and a crochet chart is a challenge. It's fun if you. Some of them I figured out. Some of them are still a challenge for me, but they were just kind of coming into being charts for crochet at that time. So mostly it was written directions, and it was so interesting to look at that writing and see the pattern evolve into what the finished project was. My mom, she could look at a piece of crochet and she didn't need the pattern. She could figure it out. She could just eye it and figure it out and recreate it. She was really talented in that respect, and she did a lot of designing of her own projects. And in fact, some of you may know the magazine Crochet World, which was House of White Birch's publication, which I think has morphed into, that might be part of Annie's now. I am not sure, or if Annie's is even still going. I've lost track. But House of White Birches, she had patterns published in the inaugural issue of Crochet World. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That, you know, to see her design something, submit it, get paid for it. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of money, and that magazine was pretty unsophisticated, let's say, basic, but good, homey stuff. Yeah, so we'd look through that a lot. So she did a lot of little things for them over the years. That was fun. And that creative spirit just, you know, passed down to me. So on to the projects, and there are two for today. The first is what I'm wearing, and I'm sorry so I will stand up and show you. Look at this. Look at that. Fun. Isn't that beautiful? This is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's called, aptly named, the Window Pane Scarf. And it's by Adrienne Lash. It takes one ball of yarn, and I have to double check. I think this is 100 gram. Yes, 100 gram ball of yarn. I don't remember if the pattern calls for more than that in the yarn they recommended, which was probably not, because I think what they recommended was Knit Picks Chroma or another one of the long gradation color change yarns. So I think it's still 100 grams no matter what yarn you choose. But this is Barocco Medina, and Barocco Medina, isn't that a lovely color? All those beautiful earth tones, golds, rust, brown, a little bit of gray, a little bit of pops of green in there, and pops of red, not red, but rosiness, coral. Yeah, it's just fun color changing yarn. And this is definitely just an accent scarf. I mean, this is not going to keep me warm at all, you know, not really, but it's just your pop of color. That's one reason why I wore this sweater today, because it is my pop of color scarf. So yeah, and very easy, quick knit. Look, I'll just let you gaze on that for a moment. I know sometimes I've been moving things around too fast, and I'm going to try not to do that so much, but one ball. And this yarn I got from, again, Yarn Cakes in West Salem, Heidi's yarn shop. And I bought the yarn initially for a different purpose. I wanted to weave with it, and I still have not done that. I might in the future. I have some more. But I saw this pattern, and I just decided to do some crochet and give this a try. And it was a hit. It was a big hit. And in fact, after I made it, I took it back to Heidi's shop and I showed her. And she liked it so much that she had one of her crocheters, one of her staff people, do some shop samples in a couple different colors of the Medina. And I don't know if she used a different yarn as well, but that was a good example of how nice this yarn can work up. And And this Medina is, and all Medina, this yarn, Barocco named all of the colors for cities in North Africa. Medina is in North Africa. Now I'm wondering if that's Saudi Arabia. Some of the cities are Saudi, so it's like, you know, Casablanca is one of the colorways. Tripoli. This color is Tripoli, but this one is called Meknes. Yes, and so it's browns and very nice. And it is, 100-gram ball, 37% cotton, 36% acrylic, and 27% viscose. So it's what I really like about it, especially for this scarf. It has got drape. It just, it's the heft, and heft isn't maybe the right word, but just the drapey quality of it. It's very, it hangs lovely. You know, this, it scrunches together because of the open work of the mesh. It, you know, you can get it together around your neck. It's not bulky at all. It makes a nice knot. This was just an overhand knot. So that's not bulky. Sometimes you make something, and I think I started this in a different yarn. I started it in a yarn similar to a Knit Picks Chroma, but it wasn't that. But it was a lighter weight wool type of a yarn. And it had no drape to it. And now that was pre-blocking and all that. But, you know, another type of yarn, or others that I've made, you know, scarves, you end up with a great big wooge of fabric around your neck, and it kind of sticks out. And that's not my style. I wanted something that is very subtle and, you know, just sits nicely. And this really did the trick, yes. And it's just so pretty. And of course, look at this. This goes with a lot of colors. It goes with this cream, of course. I've worn it with a terracotta turtleneck in that, pretty much that shade. And it looks good with that. You know, I could put a blazer on over this, or, you know, wool jacket. And it's a lovely pop of color in the fall. And that was one reason why I wanted to do this episode today, talk about crochet, because these are the colors of autumn right here. These are all the leaves, everything that we're seeing right now. It's in this scarf as far as color goes. So yes, the window pane scarf. I will link to the pattern, and one ball. Doesn't take a whole lot of time. This is, I believe, yeah, it's double crochet. It's a double crochet mesh. Very easy. Just all over goodness. I love it. So that's the first crochet pattern for today. Oh, and look, I even have earrings that are squares that kind of, you know, mimic the squares in the mesh. Fun. So that's project one. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about it before we move on. No, I don't think so. Project two is something, again, for the holidays. I initially made this pattern just to make a crochet pair of slippers, and when I finished them, I didn't really like them. They didn't really fit very well. They were a bit big, and I'll show you why. Here's one. I finished this one. This is going to be my second pair. This is a pattern, aptly enough, called Granny Square Slippers by Adrian. Oh, Adrian was our first one. By Donna Wolf of Nastasia.com. And I think this is the classic crochet slipper pattern that you can find in a lot of old publications in one form or another. This is Donna's interpretation of it. So, you know, see it sits like that. Each slipper takes 6 granny squares, and it's just how you sew them together that makes the shaping. My friend Jim, his mom crocheted, and she made me a pair of slippers like this, not granny squares, but just, I don't know if the squares were just crocheted back and forth, but it sewed them together in the same manner. And I wore those for a long time. There might have been a combo of granny and plain crochet in her pattern, her interpretation of it. But these, yeah, when I first wore them, if you can see, look how that's awfully wide. That's very wide, and they weren't comfortable to wear. And this also kind of looks like it, you know, it's up. This looks like it's too open. So I made them for the county fair a few years ago, and I didn't really wear them. I think I put them on, and this is the original pair that I made. Same yarn. This yarn is Peyton's Classic Wool, which is a readily available worsted weight wool. You can find this at Michael's. You can find it at Joann. And I'm not sure about Michael's, but I know Joann, at least on their website, had variegated colorways as well as the solids. This happens to be older yarn that I got from Hirschner's in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, many years ago, but still available today locally, or not, well, locally for me, but probably locally for you too if you have a Joann's or a Michael's nearby. So yeah, I don't remember if I wore them right off the bat. I might have tried them on, and what happens with me in the wintertime, I keep the house colder, so I might have on a thin pair of socks, then a hand knit pair of wool socks, then a bulky pair of wool socks, and then finally a pair of slippers. I mean, there are a lot of layers on my feet in the wintertime in this house. So I might have put them on then and, you know, had enough underneath to keep them on my feet. But then I washed them, and I don't remember if I just washed them by hand and threw them in the dryer, but I did shrink them up just a little bit. I think I put them in like a gentle cycle with something and then threw them in the dryer for a bit. Again, checked them, pulled them out before they completely shrunk up. And crochet will shrink at a different rate and in different ways, different proportions, of course, than knitting does. Knitting will shrink more in length than it will in width, but crochet is pretty much, depending on the stitch you use and directions that you go in, pretty much going to shrink evenly together. And it maybe depends on like how thick your stitches are. Like if this was all a single crochet square, it will shrink differently than, you know, the textures of the double crochet. And by doing that, it also, you know, you can see that's open a bit. There are holes, and that's the bottom. So you don't really want holes like that on the bottom, do you, on a slipper? But okay, there's still a hole, but this is kind of, these have been worn a year. You know, they're getting a bit thin on the bottom, perhaps. And I'm going to talk about that in a future episode. I'm going to do a whole episode on slippers because I make a lot of slippers, and I said I wear them year round in the house. So we'll talk about slippers in the future, but that really did help, you know, bring this together, close up some of those holes a little bit more, trap a little bit more air. It made it a bit thicker. So that's my intent. So it made it, it still looks a bit wide at the top across the foot here, but when I put this on now, it fits just great on my foot. It doesn't flop around like like this version, you know, did, it hugs much better, especially if I have a pair of socks on, or you know, something like that. So I would suggest that if you're going to make this slipper, well, you know, do a test. This was worsted weight yarn and a size, for me, a size G crochet hook. You might want to try a pair in a DK with a size D or E or F crochet hook. You know, something smaller. Of course, we all want our projects to turn out and fit us right off the bat, but this is a great practice to do a pair, because it only, again, it takes 6 granny squares. Each granny square is only 4 rounds. So you could make one and get it can be your gauge slipper. And then you'd know whether you have to adjust and use a thicker yarn, thinner yarn, smaller needle, larger needle, to get it to fit who you want it to fit. And then, or you know, do the after work of shrinking it a bit in the washer and dryer, or by hand. This would shrink by hand as well. So, you know, do that, and it makes, and then you've got a pair that you could give away. You could, charity, gift, donation. It's easy, it's quick. It'd be a good one for all kinds of things. This, I used 3 colors of the Peyton's Classic Wool. There's the old gold was in the center. Then this variegated I did for 2 rounds. I deviated from the pattern a bit. I think she might have had you change every round to a different color. But, or no, she had the 3rd round and the 4th round be the same color. And when I did that on the black, on the dark pair, that was too much black for my taste. I wanted a bit more color. So that's why I did 2 rounds in the variegated colorway. And that's what I did here as well. So it's sewing them up. I've got my next slipper here. I didn't sew these together. Another thing I did, just to deviate from her pattern a little bit, and really, I did 2 things I did. One, she had you make the, I think they call it magic loop for crochet, where you wind a loop and then you crochet into it, and then you can pull that tight. Such a simple little project. I didn't want to mess around doing that. That's not as intuitive for me. I have to think about it harder. So all I did for the beginning here was do chain 4 and slip stitch to make a ring. And there's so much in the center of that ring. You're putting 12 double crochets into that ring. It closed it up regardless, you know, whether it was for chains or doing the pull. Now the pull might have closed it like that, even tighter. But why? Because you've got all these other holes anyway. You know, what's one more little one there? So, you know, it is personal preference on what you like to do. But for me, that was fine. And then her rounds ended here, and I think she had you do slip stitches over to like the corner, I believe, or you know, she had you do some slip stitches over somewhere, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to end where I end. It's, again, it's 4 rounds. I'm not going to get too concerned with where I'm ending the round and starting a new one. And I think when I did the 2 rounds of the same color, I also did a chain 3, turned the work, and worked backward, and then went back again. So there's 1 round in here that's flipped. To me, that's not noticeable. I don't get too excited about that. But I do make sure that I have all of these, when I'm sewing them together, that I have everything face up, the same direction. And I really, this just says to, I think, to whip stitch them together, which is such an easy thing to do. And I love, you know, butting those edges together and doing the whip stitch. I did not, since this isn't at the corner, I won't use these tails to sew up. I added new yarn to whip stitch together. And on this, I just went through both chains, you know, both chains on each edge. That's not showing up very easily. Sorry about that. But I just went through both. I will sometime, depending on what the project is, butt those edges together, just sew through like the top loops of those whip stitch, and then turn it over and sew through the back on the other side. I think that makes it a little sturdier sometimes. And you could almost do a mattress stitch version that way if you wanted. So yeah, kind of a double seam to do that. But on this one, since I knew it was going to be felted, fold a little bit, I decided just to whip stitch, because all of that disappears, you know, especially if you're doing a dark color. You don't see the stitches or the whip stitching. The other thing I like about this is on the edge, I did, and I think she calls for it in the pattern. Well, she says it's an option, but I did it. I worked a row of single crochet around this opening edge, and then I worked a round of reverse single crochet, and that just adds this nice little. I used to not like this. I thought it was kind of, it's bumpy, and I used to like things to be very smooth. But I have embraced the bumpiness, and now I really like putting reverse single crochet on edges. The first one I did was on a baby blanket, and I thought it just set it off so nicely. So if you're somebody who used to like smooth and now, you know, give bumpy a try. It takes a few minutes to figure that motor skill out of putting your hook in behind where you're used to putting it, and then working back and pulling the yarn over. But once you get the rhythm of that, it goes really fast and it's fun. Yeah. So reverse single crochet, and even after fulling, you know, there's still just a bit of bumpy. It's more like a corded edging, let's say. So that was fun. And again, 12 granny squares. If you've never done granny squares, I have a friend who has not tried granny squares, and I hope this might be the project that gets her excited to try them. They're easy. You can use up a lot of scraps that way, because the center, I didn't weigh like each color as I used it to see how many grams it would take, but that's, you know, that's not many, not much yarn in the center, and then a little more going out each direction. So you could use scraps and make it be a whole scrappy project. Use up all your leftovers. That'd be fun. Yeah, and it takes no time, really. I crocheted all of these in an afternoon while I was watching presentation on Zoom, and then stitched one together last night. You know, did the stitching of this last night, and I'll stitch this one together. And I also, I don't know if you can tell the difference on the camera. This one I steamed with the steam iron, and this one I didn't. And I had been patting these flat. When they were initially finished, they did, you know, curl up a little bit. But so I had them in a stack, and I was patting them flat. But I did go and hit them with the steam iron before I started sewing together. And it made just a little difference. It does make it all lay flat and nice and kind of evened out the edge a bit. And it also, actually it already softened this up a little bit compared to one that hadn't been hit with the steam. Very interesting. So, yeah, so I'll go and steam these last two, put them together, and then I will throw these in with my my next load of laundry, which will probably be tomorrow, and see how they turn out. I think they'll be great, and fun. Again, nice fall colors. So, yeah. And okay, after I got these to the size that I wanted, I wore this pair almost all summer, actually, in the house. And what happens when you wear it, this, actually on my foot anyway, it kind of did that, which is cute. It's cute, and it just yeah, holds the slipper in place nicely around your ankle, I think, maybe, with that little bit of extra fold over. Yeah, because my foot doesn't go like that. It goes like that. So it just naturally folded itself down. And so, yeah, I wore these all summer, and I thought, well, gosh, I can't show them all dirty on the podcast. So I washed them, and now that they are the size that I need, I just wash them by hand and lay them flat to dry. And that's easy enough to do. And that's what I do with all my socks. I stopped, even my superwash ones, I don't wash those in the washer anymore. I have a wool cycle or a gentle cycle on my washer. I might, if I have a lot, put everything all in to soak and just smush it around just a little bit, but otherwise I do them in the sink if I only have a few pair going at a time. So that's what I did with these. Easy, quick, it takes just a few minutes and a little bit of water. And I forgot to bring one over, but you know what they look like. For doing this, here's a tip. For washing anything small, knitted or crocheted or what have you, in your bras or whatever, if you're washing something by hand, I like to use a salad spinner to spin out the water. And it works super great. I picked up my first one at a yard sale somewhere for $1 or $2, and it's one where you do this on the top, and that one I still have. That's the smallest one I have. Then at another yard sale, I bought one that was bigger, and these weren't even used. I think it was one of those things somebody got it for a wedding gift or a housewarming present or something, and they had extra possibly, and so there they were in the yard sale. So I got a bigger one, and it was one where you had a cord to pull, like on a lawnmower or a motorboat, or and that was really nice. I'd get whipping around, and the water would just yeah, it was great. It would come out of there. It was a big basket for it, but eventually that cord broke. It wore out. I used that for several years, and then the cord broke. I tried Googled to see if I could fix it, and I decided to look for another one, and then I actually bought one deliberately on Amazon, and it's got a big crank handle to it. It's a large capacity one, and it's got this big crank handle, which is easy to use. It gets out the water. It's not going to break like that pull cord one did. So I use that for if I'm doing, I think I can fit like 6 pair of socks in that and crank on it. And you do then have to lift the basket out and drain the water. It doesn't have like a little side lip or anything to drain the water, but easy enough to do. And I also, the one that broke, I saved the base and the basket, and that's downstairs, and it comes in handy. Sometimes I take it outside in the summertime and use that for, if I'm picking veg, then I've got them in there, and I can just run the hose on them outside, wash the dirt off, and lift the basket out, and it all drains. So many uses for things that were maybe going to be thrown out, but no, I kept them. And I still use those salad spinners for salad too. Just make sure they're all cleaned out so that there's no wool fibers on your salad and that there's no lettuce on your socks. It works. Trust me. So, yeah. I did remember one thing I wanted to say about this lovely scarf. Don't remember what hook the pattern called for, but I thought, when I started making this, I was using an E crochet hook. And I'm sorry, I don't know what the equivalent of the metric is for that. But I was using an E crochet hook, and I was having a heck of a time. I thought the fabric was turning out okay, but I was having a heck of a time. I was splitting the yarn constantly splitting it, and and just trying to get in there, and it was not pleasant at all. So I ripped it out, and I went up to a size F. Night and day difference. And it didn't affect, it probably improved the drape of this immensely. So yeah, it was going like lightning after that, after going up a hook size. And I was just being so stubborn using that E hook. And because I had made probably this much of it, and I thought, I hate this. I'm not happy with this. I'm going to just, so no, just went up a hook size and wham, made all the difference. So be sure to use the hook that is comfortable for your crochet project. And if you can't fit it in there, in the gap, in the spaces, in the stitches where you need to fit it in, try a bigger hook. Or if it's too loosey-goosey, try a smaller hook. Yeah, makes all the difference. And something like this, gauge is not important at all. It's going to be, and again, I don't remember if I made the same number of mesh squares that the pattern called for. I might have adjusted a little bit, but gauge is not important. I think I did and said, okay, this is how wide I want it to be. And that's what I like. And so then I went from there, regardless of what she called for in the pattern. Crochet is so easy to modify that way. And it's so easy to take apart if you make a mistake compared to knitting. So that is one of my loves about crochet. I don't know if I love them equally because they're both different. They produce different fabrics, different drapes. I've seen really nice crocheted sweaters. I tried to make a crocheted sweater back in the 80s out of Brunswick Germantown yarn, which is a worsted weight yarn, and I believe the pattern called for a worsted weight, and it was a color work yoke, and then single crochet sleeves and body, and it could stand up by itself, that sweater. It weighed a ton, that sweater. I think it hurt my hands because at that time I didn't know enough about gauge and about the drape of the fabric to know that I just followed the pattern blindly and didn't think about modifying it at all. And it was so uncomfortable. I wore it a couple times, and I don't think it even fit. I think it was probably too small. So I did wear it a few times, and I took it all apart and made other things out of it. Yeah, that turned out much better. Probably knit some stuff with, I don't know. But sweaters are a challenge, I think, for crochet. I've seen some good ones. I'm trying to think if I have any crocheted sweaters. I was working on one that's motifs also, but I was liking how the fabric was turning out, but I ran out of steam. I ran out of enthusiasm for it. So I should pick that project up and finish it because I think it will turn out much better. this is giving me the inspiration to go and get that done. That's one of my goals with this podcast, to keep the enthusiasm going, to finish some of the things I've started. And I've talked for 40 minutes already. So let's get on to some of the fun things. Like, this was fun, but more fun things, admin things. In episode 3, I said there would be a giveaway to celebrate 200 subscribers and 200 views, or 101,000. Yeah, 101,000. That's what we were celebrating. We're way past that now, which is great. We got 23 names in the drawing. So rather than do a random number generator, I printed them all out in little slips of paper. Or like cut the paper into little slips, put them all in here, and I'm going to draw the name. Thank you all for entering. I really appreciate it. I think it's been fun. I got a lot of nice comments from people all over. I got a woman from Australia entered. All over the country. It was great. Canada. Yeah, so we'll see. They're all in here on pieces. And what you, I didn't bring the things that I showed from last time, the drawing. It was a skein of lovely sock yarn in green and purple, and a book, Minnesota 52, and a stitch counter, row counter, however you want to count things with. I think that was it. Oh, and then I said maybe a little bonusy thing. Yeah, which I still haven't decided on yet. So the winner for that is, I'm gonna draw the name. I can't really see what I'm doing here because I don't have my glasses on, because it's easier to see just this little bit without my glasses. Anyway, okay, we'll pull one here. Okay, so here it is. Oh, here, I will show you. I'm pulling. Oh, I've got too many. We'll get in there. Come on. Oh, okay, this one. This one. And the name is Delores Hunkler. Delores Hunkler, you are the winner. And I will get in touch with you via email. I'm not going to show your email. That's the other part of that. Via email to get your address to send that lovely prize out to you. So I hope you really like it. That was fun. Now, because we're doing crochet today, I have a little giveaway for the crochet people too. Because how often, if you're a crocheter, you say, oh, there just aren't enough nice patterns for crochet or for sweaters or things like that. Crochet gets overlooked. I think crochet can be just as complicated and technical as knitting, maybe sometimes more. So it's a challenge, All these things are challenges. We can make them easy or difficult. So I'm doing a giveaway for the crocheters. You don't have to be a crocheter to enter this giveaway. You can be a knitter, you can be a whatever, weaver, anything, enthusiast to enter this drawing. But what I am giving away in honor of crochet is a skein of the Medina yarn, same skein. Maybe you'll want to make this scarf with it. Maybe you'll want to make something else with it. Who knows? But I'm giving away one skein of Medina in the Mekness colorway. I'm also giving away a skein. If you don't like this color, you might like this color. So I'm giving this one away as well. This is in the Tripoli color. It's blues and greens, and there's a little bit of rose in there, and that's fun as well. And both of these came from Heidi's shop in West Salem, Yarn Cakes, and they're very, very good colors. I don't know if they would go together. That's your personal preference, if you'd want to use them that way. So there's that. Then there's a book from my library, and this one is called Simple Crochet by Erica Knight. Erica is a British designer, and I made these slippers also. I made those in a different yarn. It was, I think, a cotton and wool blend. I know there was some cotton in it. And they also, it was a cotton and wool blend, and they did have to shrink a little bit, but they fit a little bit differently than the granny square slippers. Actually, if I remember right, they're a bit narrow for my feet, and I wanted to make another pair a little wider. But they do fit. They fit well on a bare foot. So there are some really nice patterns in this book. Here's your granny squares. Always a granny square Afghan in there. And I like they say modern. Well, okay. I think granny squares are timeless. You know, they are a lot of fun. I'm trying to find, there's a, I don't know if that's going to show up. There's a nice floor pillow in a textured stitch. That would be fun to make. Make that for a cat bed, or for doing meditation or yoga. There's a round pillow. You see that? There was one in the back. Let me see if I can find it, because I would make it. Yes. Tea cozy cover. I would make that. In fact, I think I have something like that going. So, and then there are edgings. She uses a lot of, there's a lot of highlighting different fibers to use. Here, doing a rag rug with cotton rags, cotton strips. Yes, there's a lot of good texture in this book. So mostly projects for the home, not garments, but a very garments in the form of slippers, but a very nice crochet book. So not new, still relevant, still relevant. And then there's also this little gem, motif afghans, and I believe there are 4. This is by Candy Jensen and it's Leisure Arts publication. There are 4 motifs in here. There's a granny square done differently, done on the corner. There's this one where you have a row of granny squares and then you work your ripples from each direction. I like this hexagon one. There's more than 4, because there's another hexagon in here. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun and use up a lot of scraps too. All the different colors. So that will be in the giveaway. And then again, another one of these row counter stitch counters. So all ready to go. Yeah. So that'll be the crochet giveaway. Like I said, you don't have to crochet, but you're getting crochet books. So maybe you'll learn if you don't already know how. And the deadline to enter that giveaway will be Wednesday, midnight Wednesday. Midnight's flexible. October 25th, so that I can have time to do the drawing or get the names ready before, hopefully I'll podcast and do a recording on the 26th. So that, I think, is everything. Oh, how to enter. Ooh, and all the admin details are coming out now. How to enter. Let's do it the same way. That worked really well last time. Send an email to livelearnknit@gmail.com, and there will be a link to that in the show notes, which are down below here. Please like. Well, maybe not even as important as like, please subscribe. I noticed when I hit 100 views of episode 1 that YouTube started putting the ads in the showings. And I think at first they were just at the beginning, and now I see that they are coming at the beginning, in the middle, every so many minutes you get an ad. Those are making money for YouTube. Those aren't making any money for me. I am not at the threshold yet to get any royalties or sponsorship or anything, whatever you call it, payout from YouTube. So to get up to a level like that, which would be nice. I mean, I'm doing this regardless, but it would be nice. I need to get more subscribers and more hours watched. So please subscribe. Please share. tell your friends, have them subscribe, play the videos, go back and see the other ones, because one of the things I want to do sometime is go back and say, here's all the things I forgot to say. We might have an episode like that. No, we won't have an episode like that. What I'm also planning on doing, if you would like, is I'd like to put together a little newsletter that would come out on the week in between, because I'm getting a routine now of doing this every 2 weeks. So on the week that there's not a podcast, I might send out a newsletter. Might, if there's things to mention. I don't want to glut your email inbox. I spent most of the summer hitting unsubscribe on so many emails that, it's like, you have to sign up for my newsletter to get this free pattern. And so I would, and then there was nothing. I mean, it was just too much. I was getting bombarded. So I unsubscribed to a lot of things. So I know it can be overwhelming, and I don't want that to be the case with this. I want this to be like just a little news, like a letter from a friend. Not going to be selling anything or promoting anything. I might, here's a recipe, here's a link. This is what I'm working on. Hope you're all doing well. It might be just that kind of thing. And it would probably be, that last podcast, I forgot to tell you that I did this, or that this happened, or something. Yeah, just little addendums. So if you want to be on the mailing list for a newsletter, please also send me an email to livelearnknit@gmail.com. Put newsletter in the subject and put that you'd like to subscribe. Make sure that I will have your email address that way. For the giveaway, please put giveaway number 2 or giveaway crochet on that giveaway entry as the subject for your giveaway. And I would appreciate it that if you're going to enter the giveaway, that you are a subscriber. I don't know if you are or not. I only find out if someone has subscribed if they already have a YouTube account and subscribe, and have it set up. So I don't see everybody that's subscribed. Don't see their names. So I have no way of knowing. You're on the honor system with that. So I think that's it. Oh, there's still the blog going, and the blog will be where all the show notes are. And that's another reason, since I'm not up at that threshold to get any kind of compensation from YouTube, that's another reason why in the show notes below here, the links are not live. They won't be, as far as I understand it, they won't be until I get to that threshold. So that could take months, or maybe never. I don't know if they change the parameters. Or maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. I don't think so, because they said I had to try again, like in a month's time or something, and they still haven't approved me. So we'll see. I'll get those tech things figured out. But subscribing helps a lot, and viewing helps a lot to get to those goals. We will have another celebration when we get to 500 subscribers, and I think I'm over 5,000 hours of views, so I can't say that, but 500 subscribers will be my next celebration giveaway. And we're getting closer, so that's good. This is getting way long for what I wanted to do, but I talk too much, I know. That's what you're here for, right? To hear me blather. So, I'm just going to say one last thing, quickly, I hope. I did get some comments on the raspberry colored sweater that I wore in episode 3. People liked that and asked about it. And no, it was not a handmade sweater. It was something I got at the thrift store. And this is also the same sweater in a different color. And that's my frugal tip for this podcast. I had originally bought a sweater similar to the raspberry one. It was a mint green marl color, and it came from Christopher & Banks. And they are no longer in business. But one day when I was thrift shopping, I found, I think it was that raspberry sweater. I found that sweater and I thought, oh, well, I know I liked the green one I had. I know it fit well. So I will buy this one. I like this color even better. And then another time I found another one in gold. And I thought, okay, I'll buy this. Well, over the last 5 years, I've lost a lot of weight, 92 pounds. And so I'm downsizing in sizes, which is another reason why I like to thrift shop. And I knew I liked those sweaters, and they were getting to be too big on me. And I thought, well, okay, I don't want to wear them. They look too sloppy when they were so oversized big. So how can I find those comfy sweaters that look good on me and that fit well? How can I find more of those? I went to eBay. So I search on eBay for, you know, the brand and the size that I wanted to go down to, and I found sweaters that way. And I had a criteria of, you know, a certain dollar amount that I didn't want to go beyond, because eBay, you do end up paying more with postage and that than you would if you found it at a thrift store. But at least you know what you're getting. So I've done that many times. If I find something that I like at the thrift store, I go home and look for it also on eBay if I want another one, like a pair of jeans. You know how hard it is to find jeans that fit and look good. So so I have a price point that I don't go beyond, but I will look on eBay for those types of things. And I think I have similar sweaters. This one's got buttons down the center. Some of them have buttons on the side. Some of them don't have buttons. But a similar style of sweater. I think I might have 4 or 5 now. And I wear them. I rotate them through. They're very comfy. It's a cotton sweater. It's very comfy to throw on, especially in the spring or fall before you need a heavy wool sweater to stay warm. So that's my frugal tip of the week. If you find something you like at your thrift store or that's already in your closet and you want more, check eBay. And sometimes you can find things and it'll say new with tags. That's great. The other thing is, if you're shopping on eBay and you're buying something used, make sure that they are giving you a photo with a chest measurement like this, you know, and showing you the measuring tape with it going across. Make sure they have measurements in the description. And if they don't, ask them for measurements of the garment. Ask them for underarm to underarm measurements, because they might say 1X, they might say extra large, they might say 2X, whatever it is. Those sizes are not universal. They are not the same. So you need to see that measurement, because you're buying something sight unseen, basically. You can't try it on. So that's important. If the length is important to you, you know, if they're a good eBay seller, they will have measurements of everything. They will have, you know, like shoulder to neck measurements. They'll have length measurements. They'll have up here. They might even have, if it's an A-line or something, they might have a hip measurement too. The more measurements you see, the better, the more knowledge you have. Those are my frugal shopping tips for the day. It's still raining. The light, this is probably as bright as it's going to get all day. I think I'm going to go and maybe do some work upstairs. Clean things up a little bit up there. Maybe clean things up down here a little bit. Yeah, just do some housekeeping and try to not do anything drastic that's going to tempt the fates of Friday the 13th. All right, and it did record, so that wasn't an issue. So yay! All right, take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your knitting. Enjoy your crochet. Whatever you're working on. Enjoy cooking. Yeah, it's just it's going to be a good weekend. Have fun. Bye bye. See you next time.